Not only is the public obsessed that this potentially could be a serial killer, from my perspective, it almost appears like they want there to be a serial killer.
Every single body that's recovered from the Bayou has an autopsy performed by the Institute for Forensic Science.
What does it say Kenneth's cause and manner of death is?
Undetermined and undetermined.
Another body has been found in a Houston bayou, marking the 32nd death in the city's waterways this year.
There is a huge frustration amongst family members. They want answers. What happened to their loved one?
We knew the second that we knew he was missing, something happened to him.
Grief is intensified when justice is lacking.
We've got to attack this from a lot of different ways, but stoking fear about a serial killer is not one of them.
Kenneth was just a very live soul. He was very fun. He wanted to make sure everybody else was happy around him.
Oh my God, Kenneth, I can see you.
My family is an Italian family from New York, and growing up, there was 3 generations under one house. It was my grandmother and my grandfather, and then my mom and my uncle, which is Kenneth's dad, and then it was me and Kenneth. I'm Lauren Freeman, and I am Kenneth Cutting's cousin. I was in high school when Kenneth was born, so there was a lot of help of raising him. It was more like a brother-sister relationship. Up until he was about 21, there was points where he lived in my house, and him and his dad, and we just kind of did our thing. He was also this human that he wanted to make life fair for everybody. So if something was, an injustice, he wanted it to be fair in all levels for everybody. It didn't matter who you were. The morning that we found out that he was missing, my uncle and my husband, we actually went out looking for him, and my uncle went and filed a missing persons report.
Do you think that Kenneth would know that you and your uncle are fighting to get justice for him? The family that I've been in the most communication with is the cousin of Kenneth Cutting. My name is Jaywan, and I'm a reporter in Houston, Texas at KPRC. When I broke the story about 189 bodies being found in the span of 8 years from 2017 until 2025, Lauren reached out to me on TikTok. I'm continuing to look into the bodies found in the bayou and analyzing all the data. The medical examiner's office has ruled Kenneth's death as undetermined. That isn't good enough for her, and she wants answers.
Kenneth was in a polyamorous relationship, and he went out with his 2 boyfriends that night to Pete's Dueling Piano Bar. There's video footage that us, the family, have obtained from Pete showing that there was a disagreement between him and one of the boyfriends. And you can see Kenneth storming down, and they're both cursing at each other.
Then Lauren told me that one of the boyfriends texted Kenneth's dad and said,
Kenneth went berserk. He jumped out of the car, and we weren't able to get him back in.
That Kenneth hopped out of one of their cars in a really dangerous area of Houston at 3 a.m.
Then, about 9 o'clock in the morning, it might have been 9:30, my uncle called me and said, Lawrence, something's wrong. He said, something is wrong. And he told me, and I said, give me a second, we're on our way. We went down to where they said they let him out, and we drove the streets for a good 2-3 hours. His dad and his mom and we were actually going to all the county hospitals looking for John Does. and we were in the waiting room of Ben Taub, and my uncle received a phone call from the missing persons detective. And he goes, well, they found your son in Buffalo Bayou. Where he was at, he probably had never been there in his life, would be my guess, because he lived in one of our houses, either his dad or my house, until he was about 21 and a half. So he had only been on his own for 6 months.
I think families are just frustrated. In Kenneth's case, for example, Lauren believes that there may have been foul play.
My cousin, he really wasn't a person that went and partied out all the time. The one thing about Kenneth, because we are such a close family, is that it could be 2 o'clock in the morning and he was out and he was like, uh-oh, I'm somewhere I shouldn't be. It would have been nothing that night for him to pick up the phone and call his dad or myself or my husband and say, hey, I need help.
She told me the police didn't pull any geolocation on the phones, and she thinks the police sort of dropped the ball.
What does it say Kenneth's cause and manner of death is?
Undetermined and undetermined.
They want justice for their loved one.
They can't find a manner of death. They can't find a cause of death. And then it's passed on to the police to open an investigation and find out. We can talk about Kenneth all day, but we're at 190 something bodies since 2017.
New data obtained by KPRC 2 News raises questions about Houston's bayous. 189 bodies found since 2017.
What stood out to me the most is that nearly 40% of all the bodies found in the bayou have undetermined manners of death. And rumors about a serial killer began to spread like wildfire on social media.
Is there a serial killer in Houston, Texas or not?
Because I truly feel like there is a serial killer down there.
The work of a serial killer.
Serial killer on the loose. 10 bodies.
So we're just gonna pretend that there's not a serial on a liver.
Serial killer.
Serial killer.
Serial killer.
Serial killers.
When people don't get immediate answers, they tend to fill in the gap. Hi, my name is Grizzy, and I run a community page called Grizzy's Hood News, happenings around the city and Harris County for the most part. A lot of times I go out to scenes, I let people know what's going on.
You got it live, you got it here, you got it first with Grizzy's Hood News.
Ever since we've heard rumors, hey, there's a serial killer, the Bayou Butcher, there's even nicknames. It's like a phenomenon. I can't explain it, but people want to know, like they want to know what's going on. And sometimes fear fills in those gaps and it creates a panic. And that's what we've got right now.
Not only is the public obsessed that this potentially could be a serial killer, from my perspective, it almost appears like they want there to be a serial killer. I'm Andy Kahn, Director of Victim Services, Crime Stoppers of Houston. Serial killers are in vogue. You know, they are a form of entertainment.
I'll be doing Facebook Lives on a whole other subject, and people are like, what about the Bayou killer? What about the serial killer?
Serial killers kill people, you know, and they cause an undue amount of harm to so many different families, and it's almost like we're celebrating that maybe we have a serial killer.
And unfortunately, we're trying to hear from medical examiners, investigators, because we don't get briefings when we come out to these scenes. Communication rules the nation, they say, and sometimes when we don't get communication, the people are gonna make up their own narrative, they're gonna make their own stories, they're gonna fill in the blanks.
And when I go back to Texas, the last place you're gonna find me is anywhere near the Houston bayous.
But they think it's a serial killer going on.
The bayou is just a place where people dump bodies.
5 bodies in 1 week. How did they get in that bayou?
But let me unequivocally tell you, there is no serial killer in Houston. If you go back in Houston true crime history, we've only had a few serial killers. Serial killers, for the most part, are gender specific. Very rarely do serial killers kill both male and female victims. They single out a particular victim. They usually stick to a specific age range. And then the body count that we sadly have in the bayous, ages are from what, teenagers all the way up to senior citizens. There's never been a serial killer that has basically used drowning as a method to kill their victims. Drowning's hard. It's not easy. It's just, frankly, just impossible to even perceive.
I think each case is different. In Kenneth's situation, I believe that these young men had something to do with his disappearance and his death. Looking at all these other deaths, I think that they're all separate. So no, I probably don't think that there's a serial killer. However, I do think there's a series of killers.
We do not have a serial killer that is routinely dumping their victims into the bayou. I'm Sean Teare, and I am the District Attorney of Harris County. Historically, and in the majority of times, it is a passerby or a cleanup crew that spots what they believe to be a body. We're going to get a 911 call, and the first responders are there.
Are they initially investigated as homicides?
Always, regardless of the ultimate outcome of the death, it is going to be investigated by either HPD or the Sheriff's Department homicide teams.
Some families are not happy because they have yet to find out from the medical examiners, maybe a cause unknown or the circumstances. They don't have answers. Maybe they haven't ruled anything yet.
Medical examiners are scientists. They are always going to err on the side of we don't have enough information if they don't have enough information. In case of a submerged death or deaths in water where a body has been in the water for a significant period of time, it really does make determination of cause of death more difficult. When you think about it, depending on the time that it's been in the water, tissue is going to decay faster, tissue is going to fall off. You're going to have aquatic animals feeding on the tissue. And if it is a long enough period of time, you're not going to have the evidence of the trauma that potentially could have caused the death as prevalent and easy to see. And when you're talking about a pond or a stagnant body of water, it is less destructive to the body than our waterways, the bayous, because our bayous are moving.
The high velocity in these bayous is right at the top, right in the middle. I'm Phil Bedient. I'm a Rice professor. I am the director of the Speed Center at Rice, and I mainly perform research on flooding, flood problems, and flood alert systems. The people are swept away in these high waters, and then they hit these pylons. They hit the piers, and once you've hit the pier, and this water is moving at 10 to 15 feet per second, so you're going to drown in that water.
There are undersurface obstacles and things that the body hits and moves through, and so you see post-mortem trauma in those that aren't evidence of the reason they went in the water or the cause of death. And so when you add that on of having to differentiate between post-death and post-mortem trauma and pre-death trauma, it adds a layer of difficulty for the medical examiners.
Walk me through the report you got from the medical examiner's office.
Okay, so the very first autopsy report, when I say the first, there was mistakes, basically. There were 4 major mistakes that I saw within the autopsy report. Being a layman human who's not in the medical profession whatsoever, that I saw and I'm like, this isn't right. So So the first one is the street name where he was found at. It was 3300 Sweeney Street, which Sweeney was spelled S-W-I-N-E-Y, and on the report, I believe it was spelled S-W-E-E-N-E-Y. The second thing was, it's kind of a combination, height and weight. They actually said that he was about 4'8", and he was about 5'3". And then they said that he weighed 89 pounds, and he fluctuated anywhere between 115 and 125. The fourth mistake, or third, however you want to view it, was that they said that there was medical hardware in his neck. And immediately that threw a huge red flag for me. Living in the same house, being as close as we are, the kid never had surgery a day in his life. We knew that.
What does that make you question?
Oh, it makes me question everything about if the autopsy was done correctly, and then if the information to the police was correct that was given to them to do an official investigation.
If a case's cause of death is undetermined, does an investigation still continue?
Absolutely. The medical examiner's findings are not the end of a case. In fact, in a lot of cases, they are the beginning of a case. That does not require, nor does it even really almost ever, result in the closing of the police's investigation.
So they have closed his case officially. There was an open investigation, and the police basically told me that they went through his social media and parts of his text messages and his email, and that they couldn't find anything suspicious. What they have said is if more evidence is brought to the table, they will reopen the case. Okay, well, what do you want us to bring? What exactly do you need to reopen his case? I feel like there's roadblocks everywhere, if I'm being completely transparent.
There is not a case of an undetermined or a determined death that's investigated that we don't utilize every resource to find every answer we can. It's case specific. There are avenues that homicide detectives and then the DA's office run down until there is nowhere else to go.
I've been investigating since day one. I've done more investigating than they have. And I just keep thinking to myself, like, I can't stop. I won't stop.
Unfortunately, drowning in our bayous is not a new phenomenon.
Elected officials came out and said that most of the bodies being found in the bayou are homeless individuals.
What do you think when a homeless person dies from an illness, diabetes, or cancer? What do you think his friends and associates do? They do not take him to a funeral home. The homeless, when they pass, often end up in the bayou.
I think it highlights how maligned and ignored our unhoused populations are.
I think we have a lot of issues like under the bridges, under these areas.
Very few of the bodies that have been discovered show any signs of outward trauma.
In this day and age, if somebody was actually doing this and killing people and putting their bodies in the bayou, somebody would have come forward.
I think it's important for the families to be heard and these concerns to be heard. People being found in the bayou is at an alarming amount. That's stressing, like, to hear.
Each case is so unique, and they just want each case to be investigated on its own. Whether there's a serial killer or not is questionable.
The FBI statistics say that there are multiple serial killers working at any given point throughout the United States. And we are the second largest county in the United States. So to suggest that there is not a serial killer operating here right now would probably be folly on our part for us not to keep a lookout for that. But these bodies are not indicative of a serial killer.
Are the bayous safe?
It's a good question. The bottom is very, very slippery, and you slip on that muck down there, there's a good chance, yeah, you could drown.
We're the Bayou City. It is part of who we are. It's not something to be feared. None of them are something to be feared. They're something to be respected.
I don't think there's a fear in people before now. I do think now people don't want to go near bayous. I think that they think something's off.
I'm concerned that the public as a whole has any additional fear around our community.
Everybody's doing what they can to find out a cause of death, termination of the cause of death, and it's hard to have patience.
What's life been like without Kenneth?
Life is quiet. You have kids that ask questions about him and they miss him, and you can be fine one minute and then the next minute you're a hot mess.
This trend is likely going to continue.
Mm-hmm.
Will this change how the county handles anything?
I don't think it really changes the boots on the ground homicide detectives in my homicide bureau and their ability to investigate. Again, I think that we refocus and redouble our efforts to help people get off of the streets, to help people get into permanent housing. And by doing that, we will save lives.
Do you think the trend will continue 2026?
Yeah, most definitely it will. I think so. We will probably hear about something later on today. Who knows?
It was actually another KPRC2 crew that was down here on a completely different assignment doing a story here downtown that actually saw the commotion by the water, went over to the water, and then saw the body in there. And that was before HPD or Houston Fire or anybody was even called at that point.